Welcome again. We begin in Kano State, where the Kano State Police Command has placed a ban on all durbar activities during the 2025 Eid al-Fitr Salah festivities, citing security concerns and the need to maintain public order. The announcement was made by the Commissioner of Police, CP Ibrahim Adamu Bakori, during a press briefing at the Bombay Police Headquarters on Friday. CP Bakori emphasized the importance of ensuring a peaceful and secure environment during the festivities. He noted that security assessments revealed growing tensions and also potential threats associated with the durbar. The Commissioner assured residents that adequate security measures had been put in place to safeguard the Eid prayers at designated grounds. He urged worshippers to comply with security guidelines, including avoiding the carrying of unnecessary objects that could cause suspicion, and strict prohibition of horse riding, locally known as kilisa, car racing, and reckless driving.
The command, in liaison with other security agencies, having obtained and assessed the security situation in the state, especially the rising tension and uncertainties around durbar activities, Hawan Salah, particularly the tendency to plunge the state into anarchy, made necessary consultations with the state government, the parties, and other critical stakeholders. As part of collective commitment to sustain the peace and security, a ban has been placed on all durbar, Hawan Salah activities throughout the state during the Salah celebration.
To politics now. The People's Democratic Party, the Coalition of United Political Parties, and the Social Democratic Party have condemned the House of Representatives' proposed bill to set an age limit of 60 for presidential and gubernatorial candidates in Nigeria. The bill, which has passed its second reading, would disqualify figures like President Bola Tinubu, Atiku Abubakar, and Peter Obi from contesting in 2027. Now, critics have argued that governance challenges stem from corruption and incompetence, not age. PDP's Timothy Osadolo has called the bill a misplaced priority, while CUPP's Mark Adebayo insisted that leadership is about competence, not age. SDP's Rufus Ayiniba, however, acknowledged youth participation but emphasized experience and values. Now, let's also tell you that former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has denied claims that he received campaign funds from Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu for the 2023 elections. Atiku, the People's Democratic Party presidential candidate in 2023, dismissed the reports as a blatant lie from the pit of hell and a political hatchet job. His media team insisted that he has never met or had any dealings with Sanwo-Olu. The statement also accused the ruling All Progressives Congress of using the allegations to discredit Atiku and remove Sanwo-Olu from office. Additionally, it has challenged the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission to publicly release its findings on the matter. Now to security matters. Edo State Governor Monday Okpebholo has condemned in strong terms, the setting ablaze of some suspected kidnappers by residents of a community in Uromi, Esa North East local government area. Describing the act as barbaric and condemnable, the governor, represented by Chief Security Officer SP Solomon Osagale, vowed to ensure that the perpetrators are brought to justice and made to face the full wrath of the law. He stressed that such a barbaric act is strange, and Osagale said he was in Uromi at the instance of the governor to ascertain the level of damage done and to ensure that prompt investigation is carried out to ensure justice and forestall a reoccurrence. And now we return to our very first story regarding the ban of activities during the Eid al-Fitr festivities. To discuss this, we are joined by former National Coordinator, Middle Belt Patriots, Zari Yusuf. Zari, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
You're welcome. Now, what's the historical significance? Let's start there. The historical significance of the durbar celebrations.
For an emirate especially Kano, which, I mean, born and brought up there, I'd say the most conservative in terms of the traditions of, the kings, in terms of the traditions of Islam, in terms of, the majesty of, that emirate in particular, the charisma of the emirs that have gone before now. Historically speaking, if the likes of Ado Bayero, the likes of Abdullahi Bayero, and all of those old kings would look at what basically is happening to the emirate, I think from a historical perspective, I'd say it's the fall of an empire. It is the fall of an emirate. It's the crashing of those ancient walls. It goes beyond just a matter of who is king. It goes beyond who is emir. It goes beyond whether there are two people who are trying to resolve something. It has a very deep spiritual significance, especially with the durbar. I mean, for a place like Kano, I'd say almost a country in its own rights. Frankly speaking, this, without being disrespectful, I'd say it's unfortunately a shame to the history of the emirate of Kano. I can't compare it to any other emirate in the northern part of the country. Even the seat of the caliphate does not measure in terms of the spiritual and the monarchical significance that Kano holds. But unfortunately, this is where we are. So historically speaking, I see the fall of an empire.
Okay, very interesting way to look at it. But to what extent do you believe the police ban on the Durbar celebrations has political undertones? Let's relate it to the ongoing disputes with the emirship. Yes.
Why I said the fall of an empire is because we have always known the emirs. And I think if I remember well, Ado Bayero wielded such, a very, very significant influence even at the federal level. Not necessarily because he was a politician, no, but because of the power that the house of that rulership had. I did say it has crashed because something that actually began as a tussle for that throne by two families that all feel entitled, that all feel in the lineage of that monarchy, suddenly became a political opening, because at first it looked as if it was just a show of political influence, okay, between either Konkoso or whatever the Konkosia stood for, and then Ganduje and all of that. So it did look as if, well, we will take advantage of it to exact our political influence. That was basically how it began. Then all of a sudden, it now looked like actually a political opportunity to capitalize upon. An example is, frankly speaking, you are more likely to set Kano on fire on matters that concern their rulership than even on political issues. So if I was a crafty politician and I saw such a happening, like what I believe is happening, they are behind the mess that is presently happening are politicians. I may not go as far as mentioning names, but frankly speaking, behind them are politicians, and it is all geared towards 2027. Primarily speaking, create chaos. And it may sound like an overstatement. Possibly we may have another Rivers being reenacted or repeated in Kano, not far from the 2027 elections, looking at what's happening in the courts and all of that. It will be delayed, and each of the parts will feel the strength to prevail over the other, and then a time will come when something will go wrong, and we'll see how it's going to turn out. But as far as I'm concerned, I think from being a platform where politicians wanted to exact their influence, unfortunately, so all of them indigents of Kano, to a place where a greater picture is seen to be capitalized in the chaos that will ensue. So even if there is any chance for peace, I am most certain the unscrupulous elements behind it will
Okay,
fuel
then,
the
Zari.
fire. So yes, it has turned into
Zari,
politics.
what it sounds like you're saying is that the police and the ban are all just simply tools. But could this ban set a precedence for future public events in Kano? From what you're saying, it seems like perhaps maybe this is what it's being set up to do. Am I correct?
Well, it appears at the moment, the ban is a situation because you cannot have two kings being paid homage to on one, within the same walls. It won't happen. You cannot have both of them riding on their horses with all of their nobles and all of that. It's not going to happen. So what has happened now is basically an unfortunate blow to the emirate, basically the tradition of that ruling class. That's one. And then the ease with which the government is beginning to interfere in what was strictly traditional and what was classy, run by the, emirates is a dangerous sign. So it has two faces. One, it may appear like on one side, okay, we're trying to keep the peace because at some point two kings will set out and then there would be chaos. So we're trying to, keep the peace. While that is true, I think it is less, of what the reason is. A lot of people are wielding their forces. A time will come when it might no longer be, there might no longer be, an emirate there. That is what basically I think, because if we are able to create a scenario where it looks as if recognizing just one of the two will create chaos in that ancient city, then most likely it is whatever turns out, it's to the ruin of that this ancient rulership line. That basically is how I see it. So yes, it is an opening for dabbling by not just the government but by politicians to achieve very dubious and selfish means.
Zari, I want to say thank you very much for giving us your input on the matter. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Now let's go on a break. But when we come back, Delta government withdraws query issued to nursing student Osato Edobo over viral video. Details of this and more after the break. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Now we move to Delta State, where the Commissioner for Health, Dr. Joseph Onojiame, has instructed the Provost of the School of Nursing Sciences, Agbo, to immediately withdraw the query issued to nursing student Osato Edobo, following a viral video involving some nursing students singing a song at an event in Asaba, the Delta State capital, contrary to the expectation of Senator Oluremi Tinubu, the wife of the Nigerian president. The Commissioner's directives are detailed in a broadcast made available to newsmen in Asaba, the Delta State capital. The Commissioner stated that the decision is driven by a commitment to protect the rights of all students in health sciences and related health programs, while also fostering a conducive learning environment for their academic success.
Query issued on the trending letter that was of query issued to the student of School of Nursing Agbo. I've instructed the provost to withdraw the letter. We don't want to victimize any of the students. I've also reached out to the student in question, and he confirmed to me that the letter was withdrawn late yesterday night. So I want the public to be aware of this, and there's scam everywhere. We are not victimizing any of the students.
Away from that, the Ogun State Governor, Dakwa Abiodun, has described the late Dr. Doyin Okupe as an exemplary politician of admirable character. While speaking at the funeral service of the late medical doctor and renowned politician, Governor Abiodun said he got sound political advice in his early days in politics from the Okupe, despite both men belonging to different parties. Governor Abiodun also said that late Doyin Okupe was instrumental in his journey to the Ogun State Government House.
Despite the fact that him and I were members of the same family, and he was my older brother, it didn't stop us from having our political differences. But you know, Egbon, as dogged a politician as he was, that did not define his personal relationship. against you politically, but that will not stop him from having a good friendship with you. His life and legacy can be best described as a journey of service, resilience, and unwavering dedication to his country, to his family, and to his faith.
The importance of financial literacy cannot be overlooked as it plays a crucial role in equipping individuals and organizations with the skills and knowledge necessary to make informed financial decisions. This was the position of some financial experts at a book launch recently held in Lagos. News Central's Omolola Ololade has the details.
Literacy levels in Nigeria remain relatively low, with a large portion of the population lacking basic knowledge of financial concepts and practices. This conversation was once again brought to the fore at the launch of a book titled The Profit of Purpose to enlighten individuals, particularly leaders in the social sector, on the importance of financial sustainability for economic growth.
This is a guide on how to master financial management, accountability, and transparency. It has 7 chapters, and the 7 chapters covers from financial reporting to taxation to fundraising to monitoring and evaluation, and just understanding the tenets of financial management.
While most non-profit organizations are driven by passion, experts believe passion is not enough, hence creating a balance between passion and finances to ensure organization sustainability and growth.
You cannot deliver impactful work that creates social change without being able to identify and effectively manage the financial and non-financial resources that goes with it. And this book really makes that point. How do individuals identify funding for the impactful work that they do, but ensure that they are able to effectively manage and report on those funds to whoever gives the funding to them?
Nowadays, the problem is not with getting resources, but then people who are going to provide these resources, organizations who are going to provide these resources want individuals, organizations they can trust. So one of the things this book has done is to actually provide like a kind of enlightenment, kind of training, to really help individuals, social entrepreneurs, to understand what it takes to be financially literate so that they can also attract the interest of other stakeholders.
According to the author, the book aims to prioritize and improve individual and organizations' financial stability, hence providing insight into concepts such as budgeting, debt management, taxation, saving and investment, among others. In Lagos for News Central, Omolola Ololade.
Now, away from that, gender experts in Nigeria have called for adequate laws to end sexual harassment in workplaces, saying that it is an epidemic that needs to be tackled. This was during a roundtable discussion in Abuja where they reviewed sexual exploitation, abuse, and harassment, which continues to threaten the safety, dignity, and productivity of women and girls across the country. Here, Amadine Uyi reports.
Order 10 on privileges.
The recent impasse between Kogi lawmaker Natasha Akpoju-Uduaghan and the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, has continued to dominate the headlines. This has placed the issue of sexual harassment in workplaces on the front burner as Nigerians discuss the plight of victims and how they can access justice. Some gender rights experts say the nation has missed an opportunity to learn from the episode and make adjustments in policies and laws.
When the news broke, the first thing that Nigerians should be asking is not about who did what or who did not do what. It's about what laws are available. What's the mechanism within the National Assembly against sexual harassment?
At this roundtable organized by non-profit organization, the Baobab for Women's Rights, gender rights experts reviewed the challenge of sexual exploitation, including abuse and harassment, which continues to threaten the safety, dignity, and productivity of women and girls in workplaces across Nigeria.
Sexual harassment is a serious issue in Nigeria, and it's because it appears that we do not discuss it enough. At times, it has been ingrained in the society to make it seem as if it's something that can be excused.
It's an obvious fact that sexual harassment has become an epidemic. is a menace that is already with us, and it gives great concern to every individual who knows what the consequences is or are to the society.
Some of them say that Nigerian laws do not adequately deal with sexual harassment and prefer adequate punitive measures for those complicit in the crime.
I've looked at labor laws. I do not see any strong pronouncement. I do not see any strong section of that. I know that the Nigerian Industrial Court is the one that is responsible for sexual harassment. I know that there have been so many rulings that one can leverage that will serve as precedent, but then do Nigerians even know that that is available to them?
Many here are calling for domestication of international conventions against sexual harassment, already signed by government so as to protect victims of the vice. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
And now to health matters. Health experts in Nigeria have raised concerns over the dangers of excessive salt consumption, saying that it is responsible for the rising cases of hypertension, which now affects over 35% of adults in the country. Now, this was during the launch of the National Guideline for Sodium Reduction in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Here, our correspondent Joshua Imarai has the details.
Nigeria's federal government has launched the National Guideline for Sodium Reduction as part of its effort to prevent the adverse health consequences of excessive salt intake. Speaking at the launch in Abuja, the Minister of State for Health and Social Welfare, represented by the Director of Food and Drug Department at the Ministry, says that excessive salt consumption is directly linked to the rise in hypertension across the country.
Our country has witnessed the transformative power of urbanization, with our diets increasingly incorporating processed and packaged food. These changes have created new challenges to our healthcare landscape and necessitates bold public health initiatives to safeguard our communities against silent threats, one of which is the elevated risk of cardiovascular diseases linked to high sodium consumption.
Some others present say effective implementation of the guideline will help improve public health and reduce the adverse effects of salt consumption.
The global average intake of sodium averages 10.8 grams per day, which is more than double the WHO recommendation, highlighting the urgency of a sustainable action.
We strongly believe that the effective implementation of the national guideline on sodium reduction in Nigeria will help in no small measure in reducing excessive sodium intake among the populace and thereby reduce cases of cardiovascular diseases and non-communicable diseases in Nigeria.
They expressed their commitment to supporting the successful implementation of the new guideline.
NAFDAC is committed to supporting the effective implementation of this guideline. Our regulatory oversight will ensure compliance with sodium reduction targets, clear labeling of sodium content in prepackaged food products, and continuous engagement with the food industry to promote healthier alternatives to sodium.
With the guideline now released, experts are hoping salt intake can be regulated in a bid to improve public health. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarai.
Now, as Nigeria's digital space continues to expand, concerns over online rights, data privacy and press freedom are becoming more urgent. From surveillance and internet shutdowns to arbitrary arrests over social media posts, experts warn that without proper safeguards, these issues could threaten democracy, press freedom and even national security. Our correspondent Idong Joseph has more on this.
Passes internet access, online freedom of expression, data protection, and cybersecurity. However, in Nigeria, these rights are frequently challenged by restrictive laws, government surveillance, and cybersecurity threats. Journalists and security agencies often find themselves at the center of these debates, one advocating for freedom of information, and the other advocating for the protection of national security. The intersection between these rules often leads to friction, misinterpretation of laws, and at times legal confrontations.
Law enforcement agencies also do a great job too, because it also ensure that we have a safe society and to also ensure that national security is protected. But this fail to understand that journalism is also about the security of the nation.
To bridge this gap, Advocates Sans Frontières France, in collaboration with UNESCO, is implementing an initiative on e-rights, which aims to foster understanding between journalists and security agencies, especially in navigating the complex digital landscape.
The key message is to ensure that human rights, as we have always known it, enshrined in Chapter 4 and Chapter 2 of the Nigerian Constitution, to ensure that these are essentially protected also on the digital space.
Experts say continuous dialogue and legal reforms are essential to ensuring that security concerns do not override fundamental human rights.
The most assailant of journalists are the security agencies. So something has to give. There has to be that conversation. There has to be that sensitization.
So if you're pushing out content that is correct, and I mean that is not full of lies or fake, of course I don't think that there will be conflict.
As digital rights continue to shape conversations around governance, press freedom and security in Nigeria, the hope is that efforts like this would lead to policies that protect both individual freedoms and national interests in the evolving digital space. In Abuja for News Central, Idong Joseph.
Now, the United Nations World Food Programme warned that at least 57,000 people are at risk of severe hunger in Malawi's Zandleka refugee camp following drastic cuts to funding. Now, the announcement came as the Rome-based agency said it faced a 40% drop in funding this year and warned of an unprecedented crisis which could affect life-saving aid for 58 million people worldwide. Refugees and asylum seekers in the overcrowded Zandleka camp, about 40 kilometers north of Lilongwe, depend on the agency's cash-based food assistance of 15,000 Malawian kwacha per person to survive each month.
The World Food Programme provides cash assistance to refugees, and World Food Programme is funded by our development partners. So with the reduction in donor funding globally, we have had to reduce the refugee rations from 75% to 50% in February 2025. Actually, we might be even going further to completely halt the cash assistance in May if we don't receive any further funding.
For the community, we see that it will bring a trouble to us and to the leadership also, because if the WFP doesn't assist the refugees, there will be a lot of changes in the camp. One, we don't have work. Many doesn't work. Others, they are just saying, we will not see how we shall survive as refugees here in the camp. It will be hard for us to survive.
South Africa's Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Ronald Lamola, hosted a political and diplomatic consultations with Teresa Kayiwamba Wagner, the Democratic Republic of Congo's Minister of Foreign Affairs, International Cooperation and Francophonie. The discussion focuses on reviewing bilateral cooperation between South Africa and the DRC, particularly commitments made during the 12th session of the South Africa-DRC Binational Commission, aimed at strengthening ties between both nations. Here in News Central's Bongani Sisiba has more.
Two nations gather, bound by history and a shared resolve. This is the 12th session of bilateral talks between South Africa and the Democratic Republic of Congo, nations united by their rich resources, diverse cultures, and a commitment to peace and development.
Our support for your country's territorial integrity and sovereignty remains solid and unwavering. We will not rest until the women and the children of the Eastern DRC are able to sleep without fear of any danger. It is for this reason that we support the strengthened mediation process as agreed during the recent joint East Africa Community and the SADC Summit.
Here, strong diplomatic relations have blossomed into collaboration in agriculture, energy, health, and beyond.
Indeed, constructive and fruitful because we have had the opportunity to look at the different efforts that were made by our predecessors, but also look ahead in terms of the potential that we have yet to seize and that has yet to materialize.
With the Democratic Republic of Congo grappling with conflict and instability, both countries recognize the importance of solidarity in overcoming these struggles.
We are in a situation where countless of lives have been lost in an indiscriminate manner, because when the bombs fall, they do not look at which community you are from. And over 6,000 have been killed alone in Goma. And we want to find a way out of it. You mentioned the issue of M23 and the inclusion of M23 in peace talks. And I think that we have, despite the immense political cost, we have made the responsible choice as a government.
As allies, South Africa seeks to strengthen its support for stability through diplomatic and humanitarian efforts.
We support the outcomes of the East Africa Community and the SADC Summit with regards to the engagement of state actors and non-state actors in the conflict in the Eastern DRC. And we continue to call for all parties to allow that process to unfold and to cooperate with that process of engagement. And this includes the government of the DRC. It includes the government of Rwanda. It includes also all the non-state actors.
It is clear that both nations recognize their interdependence, rising above the challenges. They are committed to enhancing bilateral relations, setting a precedent for unity in diversity. By prioritizing health, energy, and agriculture, among others, South Africa and the Democratic Republic of Congo are not just bridging the gaps, they are fostering communities capable of striving amidst adversity. In Pretoria, for News Central, Bongani Siziba.
The death toll from a powerful 7.7 magnitude earthquake has risen to 144 people, with hundreds others injured across Myanmar and Thailand on Friday. The quake toppled buildings and bridges, trapping over 80 workers in an under-construction skyscraper in Bangkok. 81 construction workers are missing, the Thai Deputy Prime Minister says, and a search and rescue operation is underway. The International Monetary Fund has appointed Nigerian entrepreneur Tony Elumelu in its Global Advisory Council on Entrepreneurship and Growth. The council, convened by IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva, includes business leaders and policymakers tasked with shaping policies that drive innovation and private sector-led economic developments. Elumelu, an advocate of entrepreneurship through his Africa capitalism philosophy, has mentored and funded over 25,000 African entrepreneurs via the Tony Elumelu Foundation. At the Council's inaugural meeting, Georgieva emphasized the role of entrepreneurship in fostering economic resilience. Elumelu is expected to bring Africa's entrepreneurial potential into the global economic conversation and policy decisions. MRS Oil Nigeria PLC has announced its intention to voluntarily delist from the Nigerian Exchange Limited after reporting a significant 71.2% increase in revenue, totaling 312.2 billion naira and a profit after tax of 6.49 billion naira for 2024. Shareholders approved the delisting during an extraordinary general meeting on June 25, 2024, aiming to enhance operational flexibility and reduce listing costs. Following the delisting, MRS Oil plans to list on the NASD OTC Securities Exchange. The company will also initiate a share buyback to provide an exit for dissenting shareholders with a compensation claim period set from April 4 to July 4, 2025. The Niger Delta Power Holding Company, NDPHC, is calling for urgent presidential intervention to secure funding for ongoing power projects and settle over 4 trillion naira in outstanding payments owed to generation companies. Now, during an inspection tour of the Egbema National Integrated Power Plant in Imo State, Managing Director Jennifer Adigije, alongside members of the House Committee on Power led by Rep. Victor Nwokolo, highlighted the severe liquidity challenges crippling the power sector. Adigije warned that these financial constraints are hampering GenCo's operations, threatening the timely completion of critical projects and worsening national electricity access. She stressed the prompt federal government's action is essential to restore stability and drive progress in the sector. Copper prices retreated after hitting a 9-month high, with traders speculating that U.S. supply disruptions could resolve sooner than expected. Prices dropped from a third consecutive session, hitting a $9,779,000 a ton in the London Metal Exchange, after previously surpassing 10,000 earlier in the week. Now, reports suggest that U.S. tariffs on copper imports may take effect within weeks instead of months, limiting traders' ability to redirect supplies. The uncertainty has roiled commodities markets, with President Donald Trump ordering a probe into copper flows. While the U.S. situation pressures prices, potential production cuts in China could provide some support. Meanwhile, tin prices spiked after an earthquake hit Myanmar, a key producer. Now, often known to most Nigerians as tokumbo, bend down select or okrika, fairly used items have been shipped to Nigeria from Europe since the 1940s, providing a cheaper option for Nigerians who have developed a preference for Western tech and fashion. Nigerians have often held on to the belief that foreign goods must mean better even if they're used. However, in the past it was a matter of choice, but today it's more of a necessity as the state of the Nigerian economy continues to deteriorate. News Central's business correspondent Chamun Debeng, who spoke to both second-hand sellers and buyers, says Nigerians on each side are finding it difficult to keep up with rising costs.
When we think second-hand, our minds instinctively go towards thrifted clothing. But second-hand is an economy on its own, boasting of gadgets, appliances, furniture, cars, and these days, human hair wigs, makeup, and if you were wondering, yes, skincare. After all, why throw away good lotion just because it gave you a rash? Sell it. Now, it's no shocker that Nigeria's economy, to put it sweetly, well, is bad. So it's not shocking to see many Nigerians gravitating towards second-hand items because they're supposed to be affordable. But considering Nigeria's several macroeconomic challenges. Is that really the case today? Due to factors like inflation and fluctuations in foreign exchange rates, what was affordable is no longer attainable to the average Nigerian.
Like before now, what you can get for 1.5 here, now you're getting it for like 3.5. You're getting it for like 4,000. Do you understand? So most people that even prefer to buy okrika, let me call it okrika, are now going for, like, let's say, let me buy material and sew whatever I prefer to wear.
I prefer buying new than buying thrift, because usually I used to prefer thrift before when it was affordable. But for now, I think it's almost the same price with the new one.
They are pretty expensive too. Even what I bought, the fridge I bought, was quite expensive than the new one. So, but they are reliable.
Importation of used European items goes all the way back to the control days of the 1940s. During this period, consumers popularly opted for less expensive alternatives of the brand new imported Western goods they had become accustomed to or perceived as being of higher quality. But now those involved in the trade are left to the whims of Nigeria's harsh economic realities.
But these days now, due to the situation in the country, everything was so cost. So it happened that the customers are not even tripling the way they tripling before. Even the dollar make the market too high because we do exchange rate through dollar.
The growing trend of online thrift vendors and decluttered spaces have made their marks on social media, linking both buyers and sellers with ease.
The easier it is for people to discover your business, the more likely you are to sell. Then, the other aspect is being accessible. The person that has it online and say, well, I can send a dispatch to bring it to you.
The values of cheaper alternatives associated with Tokumbo have been socially altered and transferred to second-hand goods during an economic collapse of the structural adjustment period of the early 80s. The military era and the ensuing reliance on second-hand imports starting in the late 1980s, but became trendier in the 1990s. Through the purchase of Western clothes and gadgets like vehicles, kitchen items, and even furniture, the Tokumbo second-hand economy makes it possible for consumers to obtain commodities that they believe are necessary for the transmission of modernity. Nigeria's second-hand economy exists mostly in the informal sector, so there is a need to protect these traders, as their existence is responsible for several jobs across the nation and makes a major contribution to the Nigerian economy. Reporting for News Central Lagos, I am Chamun Dabeng.
Now, reports reaching us says that there was tension in the Wuse area of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, Friday afternoon over persistent gunshots as the Nigerian army personnel reportedly attacked and shot at the members of the Islamic Movement of Nigeria at the Barnix Plaza. Some parts of the road have been cordoned off to probably fish out the Islamic protesters that might be hiding around. The clash occurred just hours after the United States Embassy in Nigeria issued a security alert, warning its citizens about planned IMN protests in Abuja and other major cities on Friday. In the advisory, the U.S. Embassy had cautioned that demonstrations could lead to disruptions such as roadblocks, traffic congestion, and possibly confrontations. The security warnings listed potential protest locations including Barnix Plaza, Burger Junction, Unity Fountain, the National Human Rights Commission Head Office, Eagle Square, Area 10 Shopping Plaza, the National Mosque, Al-Nur Mosque, and Fuad Labadidi Mosque. Now sports. Novak Djokovic advanced to the Miami Open's semi-finals with a 6-3, 7-6, 7-4 victory over Sebastian Korda, becoming the oldest man to reach a Masters 1000 semi-finals at 37. The fourth seed, aiming for his seventh Miami title and first since 2016, dominated early but had to battle through a tie-break in the second set. Djokovic credited his serve, winning 84% of first serve points and firing 11 aces. He now faces Grigor Dimitrov in the semi-finals. A win in Miami would mark Djokovic's 1,000th single title. The 24-time Grand Slam champion said he is regaining top form, describing his performance as his best in a long time and a motivation to push for more success. And that's all this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories we brought your way. Now, police have stopped durbar activities during Salah festivities in Kano State. And former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has denied receiving campaign funds from Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu for 2023 elections. We also told you that cash-strapped UN agency has slashed refugee rations in Malawi. Remember, you may send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on your screens now. And do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and of course on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. My name is Mazino Appeal.